Welcome, investigator. Evil is on the rise. Crime is escalating. Our mission is to eliminate the crime by exposing evil, examine why it manifests, and highlight the brave souls that confront it every day. Join us as we work together to bring justice to every victim. Welcome to All Things Crime. Here's your host, Jared Bradley.
A lot of these victims, they put up a fight to the end, which is absolutely what they should do.
100%, of course.
Yeah.
It's
that's
the sewer. That's the sewer, right? But now let's get to the abyss, especially with Kohlberger, right? Then it's like, what is wrong with this dude? Let's say allegedly he's the guy.
Yeah.
Right. Four young people. I don't.
Yeah, that's a weird one. What is his reasoning behind it? They say he sent her Instagram DMs and things that they found that she obviously never replied to, and
So he's a jilted lover, maybe, and not even. He's like, oh, she didn't like me, I'm going to go murder the whole house.
I guess.
I know. I mean, that's just outside of my comprehension. But all right, moving on. Ready? Luigi Mangione, the CEO killer. They got this kid.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He obviously did it. This is another sewer abyss kind of question. So is his motivation is just like the healthcare system is crooked and I'm going to deliver the people from this, like I'm going to martyr this guy. Like I guess that's his motivation.
Man, you're asking questions that are so far out of my lane. I'm just like, it's tough to answer them. But, honestly, that guy, I think some of it was, I think he's so narcissistic that he actually believes that killing this other individual is going to actually make a difference, but that he's going to be put on a pedestal like he's the savior that's going to save the rest of society from the big bad insurance companies. I don't know. I mean
that's such an astute observation, Jared, and I completely agree with you. And while I have struggled with the healthcare system in America personally, okay, fine. All I see in this was a father of two, who gets murdered by some coward shot in the back on the streets of New York.
Oh, it's the ultimate form of cowardice. It's, I mean, to not even call out his name and have him turn around and look at you so you can shoot him in the front. I mean, to shoot him in the back. Yeah, you even go back to the old Westerns. It's like, you coward.
Give you a chance to draw. You'll give you a chance.
You can't even be man enough to look him in the eye before you shoot him. But yeah, I don't
like that. I don't like it at all. It's despicable and cowardly.
I think there's so many people like him in society. I think there's very few that'll actually ever act on it. But the ones that are, they just live in this fantasy land that they think that number one, they're way more important than they actually are.
Yeah.
You go back to Bryan Kohberger and you think, this guy actually thought that this, pretty girl that, was part of a sorority or whatever, that, she's probably pretty self-absorbed, really popular on Instagram and whatever. And, but she's just living her life. She's just in college. She's like carefree and just having a good time. And, she probably never even looked at her DMs. They're so packed full of people. And so for some reason he thinks that, why is she ignoring me?
Narcissism.
She's not ignoring you, idiot. She's ignoring everybody.
Everybody. Because you're not her boyfriend, or you're just not on her radar screen.
Yeah.
Because she's a college kid.
She's got her little inner circle, and that's all she's looking at. I mean, I've got teenagers. Yeah. Their thought process beyond the next 5 minutes is
doesn't
so
exist.
It
doesn't exist. who's
Yeah.
at Starbucks right now that I could go hang out with? Like that's the extent of their forethought. That's it.
Yeah.
I know. I'm in that world as well. So it's brutal.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I want to circle back forensically. If again, I'm sorry, I'm interviewing you on your own show.
No, bring it
but
on, man.
because
All
you
about it.
mentioned that humidity breaks down DNA, right?
All right. Say that
You said,
again.
you said something earlier about humidity breaking down DNA being bad for DNA.
Right.
Okay. So how does cold affect DNA? Does it preserve it?
It preserves it.
So what could they have done differently back in the winter of 88 with Tommy Sullivan, with his 14-year-old who basically cut his own head off with a Boy Scout knife at that murder scene where there's blood on the snow and his body there? What could they have done given that late 80s technology to see if there was another person there that maybe did it?
Well, in the 80s, DNA wasn't really even. Yeah,
No.
I think the first, the first crime that was ever actually investigated was in the late 80s. But back then, you had to have, like a blood spot the size of a silver dollar,
Right.
in order just to tell kind of what the blood type was.
So then what were they using in the 80s? Was it just like hair samples, fingerprints, footprints?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think, I mean, trace evidence was, they were looking at fibers. They're looking at,
right.
hair, they can identify kind of what kind of hair it is, but pretty limited on that. But fingerprinting, I think, was by far the most prolific as far as evidence. But had they preserved all of his clothing and,
Right.
then maybe they could look at it now with modern technology. Certainly the MVAC would be, because most of the time in the cases that I've seen, it is really, really hard to actually, cut somebody's throat to that level without physically grabbing onto them. And
to like secure them, to steady.
Yeah.
It. Yeah.
Especially, I mean, that particular case is a little bit different because, it's more of a slice.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe they'd grab the hair, but stabbings, especially, people don't realize how difficult it is to actually stab somebody multiple times. And, even going to the Brian Kober case, that guy.
Yeah. Or like the O.J. Simpson case, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, to stab victims that many times, oh, geez. It's not only physically exhausting, but that's why victim blood is pretty common at crime scenes of these big stabbings, because as they're stabbing, the knife gets slippery. And a lot of times when they're stabbing, the knife their hand will go down the knife and actually they'll cut their own hands.
Oh, wow.
Because as you're stabbing, it's difficult to grip that knife once it's bloody and it gets slippery. So,
Jesus.
Gripping that kind of knife is, they're going to stab themselves. But if you're stabbing somebody, I'm sure the adrenaline's flowing. I doubt they'd even feel it till much later.
Well, I'm about halfway through season 4 of my show right now.
Yeah.
And I'm doing an expose on Richard Ramirez, on the Night Stalker.
Okay.
And a big part, until the governor of California, Feinstein, or was she only the mayor of San Francisco back then? I forget which. Until she ruined it by acknowledging what their evidence was, it was all sneaker prints. They had a bloody sneaker print from almost every crime scene of this guy. Okay. So, and I had never heard of sneaker prints being so valuable in crime scenes. And then I learned that it's one of the most common bits of evidence that's collected are sneaker prints. Yeah. I just learned that myself. And I found that really, really kind of interesting. And that if the person happens to be barefoot, a footprint can be as identifiable as a fingerprint.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everybody's footprint is really unique. And a shoe that is not brand new is actually really unique as well, because everybody's footprint and everybody's gait, how your shoe wears, there's some people that
Yeah.
drag their heel. There's some people that, walk,
Pronate or whatever.
pronate and
Yeah.
supinate, so how you walk in shoes that you've been wearing for a long time, and just the wear marks on your shoes can be really identifiable.
So that could be presented as evidence, like in a trial. Like, here's a shoe print.
Oh yeah.
And, all right. Now say I'm the bad guy. Okay. Say I'm the bad guy. I leave a footprint, but I throw away my shoes.
Okay.
Could they come to like my house, go in my closet, get a different pair of shoes and compare the tread pattern and have that hold up as evidence? Like what we were talking about. Because like I drag my heel on the print left at the crime scene, and I obviously drag my heel on these shoes you got from my closet.
I would think they could probably, you know what? I don't know. I think a good defense lawyer would beat that up, because, if it's not the exact same shoe.
Right.
And then in addition to that, you'd probably want to get DNA out of the shoe to actually.
Oh, that's true. So that's what happened to Ramirez. They had all these Avia size 11.5 sneaker prints, right? And then Feinstein goes and does a press conference and says, and the killer wears Avia sneakers size 11.5. And that night, Ramirez drops him off the Golden Gate Bridge. So the cops could never get him.
Yeah.
Which was a pain.
Yeah. But again, it's just one cog in the wheel. You gotta tie all those together, which is what, and this is one of the reasons that I respect detectives so much, because these guys, they're looking at a puzzle. They don't have the box to compare it to. And a lot of times they don't even have a picture on the puzzle pieces. They're just trying to put this puzzle together. And, a lot of the puzzles pieces are missing, and yet somehow they are persistent enough, and, they, between their training and, their, all the work that they put into it to contribute enough to, put the cogs of the wheel together and be able to fit all these puzzle pieces together, that they can actually create the story, recreate what happened based on, physical evidence and eyewitnesses and, all that kind of stuff. To be able to actually do that, all while you're dealing with the human and the emotional side of it, where, you're dealing with the family that they're asking, why did this happen? They're asking, when are you going to solve it? All this pressure from the mayor and the city council and the chief of police. And, these guys are dealing with so many different, inputs from all these other sides. They have leads that they have to, they'll open up a hotline or a tip line, and they'll get thousands of leads. And, of course they're going to have a team. They don't all do it themselves, but there's still, they're putting together this puzzle, and they have to sift through all the crap and get rid of everything that isn't relevant, and put this puzzle together in a coherent way that is not only going to answer the question of, how and why and everything, but it has to be in such a way that it's beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
And
but you can convince 12 people that you're right.
Right. And they doubt you anyway.
Of course.
In today's society, cops have less credibility than a lot of the, gangsters that are running around shooting people. It's like, these guys, what the modern day law enforcement goes through, to me, is, storming the beaches of Normandy level heroics.
I have a brother who's a New York State trooper, and he's just, man, it's every day.
Oh yeah.
It's every day from all sides. Yeah. All sides.
Talk to these guys all the time. And it's just absolutely, some of the things that they go through is just absolutely amazing. And in today's society, I just interviewed a retired lieutenant out of Las Vegas, and he has this organization called the Wounded Blue, and they help wounded and deceased officers and their families. And just one of the stories he was talking about is this guy that just pulled over this car and ended up getting literally executed. The guy shot at him, wounded him, and then literally walked up and put a bullet in him. And I don't care who you are. That's so far detached from humanity. I mean, yeah, that's right along the levels of evil that you're talking about. That 14-year-old that killed his mother.
Yeah,
it's just the inhumanity of some of the crimes that I've seen. I haven't personally been on the crime scene, but I've seen a lot of photos, and talked a lot of these stories. And to me, it's amazing. In fact, this is probably right along the lines of, some of your podcasts. So I have a military background.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of I wouldn't say a military historian, but I love everything from Civil War battles, World War II battles. I love researching that kind of stuff. And it's pretty crazy the level of inhumanity that you can find in a war, and which is a big reason why, in wars, they even the Civil War, they didn't actually use people's names when they're talking about the group. They would talk about, they have nicknames for them, and it's everywhere from Nazi to, a nip to, Johnny Reb, you nickname
Krauts.
Yeah.
Right.
You assign these pseudo names to the people because it dehumanizes them.
Yep.
And which is why a lot of these criminals modern day, they don't call them police officers. They don't call them law enforcement. They come up with all these names like, pigs and all the slurs that they have, but because it dehumanizes these officers. And in many ways that psychologically gives them more leeway to actually commit the crimes. And they'll even do it to different groups. White guys are not white guys. They're not humans. They're crackers, these kind of things. And, using those kind of derogatory names,
it makes it easier to mistreat. It makes it easier to mistreat people.
100%. And the sad thing is, the more we tolerate it, the worse it's going to get. And I think that's a big reason why you see so much violence. You see so much, just things that you're looking at them, you're going, how can you do that to another person?
Yeah. And you're talking about things that are, you're kind of almost trespassing onto like negotiation tactics, right? What people will say, like a kidnapper, make sure that the news always has pictures of the kid, right? Like, so what's happening. Like you're trying to humanize a victim so they don't do something bad to them. Like put the mother on TV all the time so the kidnapper sees them, right? Just to remind them of the human element that they're dealing with in case they've been able to dehumanize the person, that's you're right on the money there with that.
Yeah, I think that psychological battle that people do in their minds to justify what they do is a big problem with society. But anyway, it's just, again, we're into the abyss, and it can,
it's a dark and interesting place though, right?
Yeah, it really is. And it's like I said, go back to some of the episodes that I've done with Lee Miller, and
I will.
It's just one of those where you're just like, this guy. I'm glad there's guys like him out there, because most people, you get a victim that has just been totally mutilated, and you're like, why? I mean, especially if they're mutilated after they're dead. So you've killed this person, and this person, and a lot of times they know intimately their victim. You know, the husband will kill the wife kind of thing or girlfriend, you know, that happens a
Yeah.
lot. And they don't just stop at murdering him. They don't just stop at killing him. They'll keep going.
Yep.
And you're like, what kind of psychological weird place that they end up in?
Right. They snap. They go to a different, exactly.
Yeah.
They go to a different place. I saw a recent episode of yours you did with Detective Lindsay Wade.
Yeah. Yeah. She's awesome.
We're working on a project with Lindsay right now out of Seattle.
Are you really? Yeah.
Yeah. Me and my partner, Carolyn. Yeah. Yeah. She's terrific.
Oh, she's fantastic. Yeah. I mean,
Really,
her work with, has she ever told you the story of how she got Ted Bundy's DNA in the database?
No, but that's what
you've got to ask her.
Yeah, I will.
She's one of the primary reasons that Ted Bundy's DNA ended up in the CODIS, you know, the national DNA database.
Yeah. I'll make sure to ask her about that.
Yeah. Oh, she's awesome. Yeah. And her book, I've interviewed about her book as well. And, you know, some of the cases up there in Washington. Yeah. She's
really smart. No nonsense.
Yep.
Man,
she's
smart.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And really dedicated. It's like the kind of cops that you want out there. It's like a calling. She's honest and hardworking and just does everything the right way. Yeah. She's really impressive. Really impressive.
And sadly, I think most of society doesn't realize that she's exceptional, but she's also the norm.
I agree.
And out of the 800,000 cops that we have in sheriff deputies and, you know, ICE, whoever, I think 99% of them are just good, wholesome, you know, people that you literally my next door neighbor is a sergeant with an agency that's up in the Salt Lake area.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. And I've got other neighbors that are around here that are cops, and you can't ask for better neighbors. And
I agree. I think I agree that the vast majority all doing it for the right reasons.
And yet, sadly, I interviewed a guy down in he's a LA cop, and he said, you know, this is especially during like the George Floyd area, and it's like there's no other profession in the world that is demonized and bunched together. So like one bad apple does something really stupid, and the entire profession is blamed for it. And, you know, his example was, you know, doctors kill people all the time. Doctors will perform surgeries on the wrong limb. You know, they'll do something that's just really jacked up.
Yep.
And, you know, they're not like serial killers. They don't do it on purpose.
Nope.
But they make mistakes. They're human.
Yep. But we don't demonize the medical. We don't demonize all surgeons.
Exactly. You know, nobody says that, you know, all doctors are bad.
Right.
You know, it's just bizarre the way we treat law enforcement. And to me,
I'll tell you, when you need a cop, you forget about all of those prejudices.
Yep.
Right away.
Oh, 100%.
Right away. Yep.
You don't care what their background is. You don't care what their race is. You want them to show up and you want them to fix whatever problem you are having. You want them to show up and help you out with it. So
100%. I've had so many great experiences with police from where I've worked before and within my own family. And I've got really nothing but really good things to say. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, hey, Branden, I want to remind the audience again, go check out your podcast, The Devil Within.
Devil Within. Thank you. Wherever you get your podcasts, people.
Yep, absolutely. So,
Jared, this has been such a treat. Thank you so much. And again, sorry if I took over, but I really was interested in your background.
Oh no, man. You know what? Discussions like this that go back and forth, those are the best discussions to have. So
Beautiful. Well, I hope we get the chance to do it again one of these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. You take care. And if you ever need a MVAC witness or expert to come on one of your shows, man, I'm all over it.
Don't worry. I hope you don't regret making that offer.
Oh, you know what?
I will take you up on it, sir.
Okay. Anytime, brother.
Thanks for joining us. Your attention today brings us one step closer to exposing and eliminating the evil that brings crime to our communities. Hit subscribe and share this episode. Together, we will bring justice to every victim.